The Irish state does not have a pro-life position. It has a pro-hypocrisy position, which in its implementation means an anti-woman position. We have a constitutional hypocrisy whereby women have the constitutional right to travel to access abortions, yet are denied abortions here. Those that avail of safe abortions here through the use of the abortion pill face draconian penalties of up to 14 years in prison. We know that at least 12 women a day travel from Ireland to England for abortions, others to Scotland, Netherlands or elsewhere. We know that close to 20,000 women have been forced to travel for abortions under this government's watch. The burden of that hypocrisy falls on all those who need to access an abortion, who are faced with the extra stress, with the expense of an estimated between £400 and £2,000 of having to arrange to travel to Britain to access abortion. But in particular, the burden of that hypocrisy falls on migrant women, on working class women with low incomes, on those that cannot afford or simply not able to travel. The burden of that hypocrisy can, for them, mean death. The hypocrisy at the centre of the Irish state's approach to abortion rights is seen in the attitudes of all of the big parties in the Dáil. Without the tragic death of Savita Halappanavar and the social movement, the protests that developed in response to that, demanding legislation for the X case, demanding repeal of the 8th Amendment, all of the parties in here would have simply ignored the question as they have done for decades. But because of that movement, the government felt compelled to do something, and what it did was the most restrictive interpretation possible of the X case. Then it was faced with the reality that that was entirely insufficient. Insufficient to deal with the reality of women's lives, insufficient to deal with the barbarity of Irish laws, insufficient to deal with the changed social attitudes that we have. That we had the horrific case of Miss Y, a raped teenage asylum seeker, held effectively captive in Ireland and forced to give birth, with the cases of fatal fetal abnormalities, with the demands of women for the right to reproductive justice and control over their bodies. And then we had a reversion of the parties to the position of official hypocrisy. And each time that the bills have come before this House, we've seen the big parties squirm and come up with excuses for why they cannot simply vote for them. We have a Minister for Health who says that the current constitution is too restrictive, who says he favours a repeal of the 8th Amendment. But it was already voted against giving people the right to have a referendum to repeal that amendment, who has voted against the extension of abortion rights for women with fatal fetal abnormality pregnancies. We have another Fine Gael TD who has said that he now favours the repeal of the 8th Amendment, Deputy Jerry Buttimer, and he now, together with the Minister of Health, together with others in Fine Gael, have yet another opportunity to vote in favour of their professed positions. We have Sinn Féin, who voted previously against the bill to repeal the 8th Amendment, who then abstained on the vote on fatal fetal abnormalities on the grounds that they hadn't discussed it at their Ardèche, which hasn't stopped them voting on many issues in the past, which hasn't been discussed or decided at their Ardèche. Their last Ardèche now has thankfully voted in favour of a provision for repeal of the 8th Amendment, although unfortunately a motion to commit the party to a full pro-choice position was deemed to have fallen. Let us hope that they take this position after their Ardèche to make their position clear and public. We have Fianna Fáil, which simply tries to ignore, in the best tradition of that party over decades, as it has done, this issue, voting against the previous bill to repeal the 8th Amendment and then having a free vote on the fatal fetal abnormalities bill, with only 3 taking advantage to vote in favour, a so-called Republican Party. But it is to Labour that the prize of chief hypocrites must go, because their own argumentation inside this House condemns them. Because in arguing explicitly against the fatal fetal abnormalities bill, they agreed that those women should be able to access abortion services legally in this country. But they went on to say that it would be unconstitutional to do so, relying on advice from the Attorney-General that they didn't give anyone else. Instead, they therefore argued that this did not go far enough, that repeal of the 8th Amendment was necessary, and that the Labour Party was campaigning for repeal of the 8th Amendment. That despite the fact they had previously voted down a bill precisely to repeal the 8th Amendment. Then at their conference they reiterated their position.
Thank you.
Here is an opportunity to put that position into effect. Vote for the bill to allow a referendum, to allow people to decide, to allow women to decide, to access abortion rights when they need to.
Thank you.